Lex Reads. So in today's video, I actually want to talk about African literature. You guys know I say time and time again how much I love that genre, and when I first got back into reading a couple years ago, I gravitated towards that genre and just fell in love. So I wanted to talk about some of my favorites, and I want to talk about some new literature that I added to my collection. By the way, I'm going to be butchering some of these names. Some of them I'm not even going to say. I'm just going to hold the book up because I honestly don't know how to pronounce them correctly. So, all right, let's just get started. For my favorite books, first is Changes, a Love Story by Amma Aidoo. It came out in 1991. And it's about a young woman. She is married, has a daughter, and she wants to pursue a career. And of course, you just need to be the mama, the wife, clean, cook, that's it. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. So she gets a divorce, and that's looked down upon. Like, they don't even want to deal with her. Then she falls in love with a man who happens to be married. And she's like, what am I gonna do? She faces a whole set of new problems because this man is married. You know, she's in love, she has his daughter, she has his business. So she's like, what am I gonna do? This was really, really good. Next is Under the Udala Tree by Chinua Achebe. And this, I still think about this book, you guys. It's dealing with a young lady during the Biafra War in the 1960s in Nigeria. She's sent away to this family. I believe they are educators because she's like so smart. And then there's another girl that also lives in the home, and she falls in love. But y'all know, in African society and culture, that is a big no-no. Homosexuality is no. They will kill you even today. It's like her mom always knew, but she was a very religious woman. She's like, no, we're gonna pray and it's going to go away. And you just see how it goes. This, a little bit towards the end, it kind of gave you a little Color Purple aspect. That's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. But when I was reading, I said, oh yeah, this kind of reminds me of Color Purple. Next is, oh my goodness, this is one of my favorites, and I cannot wait for the second book to come out, I think next month. And it is The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Dare. I remember reading this, you guys, during the pandemic. The fact that it's not like, it's not a different story, but the way that the author wrote the characters and the language, it just was fantastic. You have a young girl. She is poor. Her mother just passed. And her father like sells her to a man. He already has, I think, 3 wives or something like that. And she just wants to go to school. She just wants to stay, you know, at home. And he's like, yeah, no, I need money, so you gotta go. She ends up, and it's not a spoiler, she ends up obviously going with the man. Horrible, just horrible. And she runs away. And she ends up in a mansion, basically, and the woman that she works for is unbelievably horrid. She gives you, oh girl, just, you won't want to work for her. The things that she makes this girl do, and she's a maid. But in comes a young lady that is a teacher, I believe, and she just sees the yearning of, I believe her name's Aidoo, and what she wants to, you know, accomplish. She just wants to go to school. So smart. So she helps her. And you see how it goes. I think the second book is called And She Roars or something like that. I'll put a picture up of the book. And also, this was a Jenna Book Club pick. So next, another one of my favorites. I love this so much. I need to reread this. It is His Only Wife by Peace Aduzemindi. I've talked about this so many times. This dialogue in this book is so funny. And it's a serious book, but she's funny. This is a young woman, Afi grew up poor. Her father just died, so it's always been her and her mother. And they agreed to do an arranged marriage with a young man that comes from wealth and, you know, high society, So the day of the marriage, it starts out, it opens, the day of the marriage, he's not there. And she basically marries without him being there. And this is set in Ghana. And then a couple weeks later, He comes and, she starts to get acclimated with him. They start to, live their life. And she's like, okay, I think I could be with this man. But the reason why his parents wanted this arranged marriage, and they knew Effie would be perfect because she's very quiet, subdued, and then because she didn't come from anything, they knew that, her and her mother were kind of going to jump on this, and mainly the mother. And Effie's like, well, I'm just going to, my dad's gone. I want to please, my mom and my aunt, so let me just do that. Again, if you guys have not read this, I would urge you to read this. First of all, look at this cover. And I like Peace so much that she is an automatic buy. Her second book came out last year. It was called Night Bloom. It's a really good book. I did a vlog on it. I'll link it down below. It's not my favorite, but it's a really good book. I would highly recommend. But for some reason, this one, it just hits differently. Next is Stay With Me by Ayubami Abayo. And I have 2 copies of this book, because at first I wanted this cover, but I was being cheap. So I got a paperback, but then I went to the store months later and got this for $5.97, so I had to pick it up. This was when I first read African literature, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Young married couple, they fell in love during, university, and they got married. They want to have children, but it's taken them a long time to have their children, and of course they always blame it on the woman. The family's like, you know what, y'all been married for 4 years, y'all ain't had no baby yet, so we go bring in a second wife. The young woman is younger and all of that, and she's like, I need to have a baby to save my marriage. And you see the methods and the concepts and how it goes. This was so good, you guys. Oh, so good. Now, she just came out with her second book, last year? And I was gonna get it, and I always look at it and then don't get it. Now, I know it's on paperback, and y'all know I'm cheap, so I might get it. It's not a story that's just gravitating towards me, but I do want to read it because I do like her writing. And after I read this, I do remember saying, oh, I want to read more of her books. This was a debut novel. Her first book, if you guys have not read it, please read it. If you have read the second book, did you guys like it, or would you recommend it? Next, oh, I have to mention this. I have to mention this author and this book. It is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Americanah. Now, I've read all of Chimamanda's works, her short stories, the little pamphlets or manifestos, the one that she recently came out with about grief when both her parents died, and love everything. Also, she came out with a children's book. Have that. I am waiting for her to come out with a fiction book, okay? Please. I think the last time she did come out with something that was like adult fiction was in 2020 when she did a short story for Amazon, the Amazon shorts, which that story was unbelievable. Oh, what was that story called? I'll put it up. If you guys haven't read it, please read it. I listened to it on audio, and it was fantastic. This story, it's a love story. It is a love story. You're not going to forget a Fimilu and a Benze. And it starts off, they've known each other, and they grew up in Nigeria. And you see when they go to university and when they go to America, how their lives change. You lose contact with each other, and you see how both of their lives go on in the struggles. This talks about hair. It talks about race. It talks about immigration. I think I learned and saw immigration in a different light. This book, it's everything that you will talk about in private, but you wouldn't say in public necessarily, especially when it talks about race and hair, I would say, because black hair is an entity on its own, okay? It can be difficult to handle. I'm a type of person where I'm very particular about my hair and the way it looks and things like that. And I had to learn how to do my hair. I had to learn, how to maintain it and the texture and stuff like that. It is difficult. Even the way black hair is talked about in, offices, how you shouldn't wear natural hair and da-da-da-da. Don't tell me how to wear my hair. Okay, don't tell, please. But she talks about that, and I remember reading that. I was like, my eyes were open, because I know I was not the only one. This book, you guys, I would say out of all her books, this is my favorite. And then second probably be Purple Hibiscus. That was her first novel. But this, y'all gotta read this. Okay, so for the books that are new in my collection, I only have four. Haven't read any of these. I started one and then actually I think I started two and put on the back burner. No, wait. I started three of them and stopped reading them because I got distracted. So, okay. The first is Ruthless. First of all, look at this cover and the nails. I got to page, I got to page, ooh, 122, which I need to read this. I need to start this over with because this just got me. First of all, look at the cover. Have a couple, they, the only choice since they were kids, and they go to this, I think, believe they go to university, everything like that. And it's set in Ghana and the UK. And the young woman, I know she doesn't want to have children. And she's expressed that to him. And she ends up pregnant. And the book starts off with, it's not a spoiler, she just vanishes. And they have a child. The book starts off like, okay, they're already married, they have a child, and you're like, why in the world did she leave? It starts with when they first met and things like that. I was reading it. Really, really good, okay? Really liked it. We'll continue to read it. Again, I just got distracted. Second is Mame by Jessica George. I remember this also was a Jenna pick, was it? Yeah, Jenna Bush pick. And you know, it's about a young girl, Maddie. She's in her 20s. You know, she is trying to navigate her life. You know, in your 20s, you just got your first job. You know, you're trying to live on your own and all of that. So everything is a first for her. First job, first time moving out, you know, first sexual experience, all of that. It's a first. So I really want to get into this because I remember watching some interviews, her talking about, you know, the book and just and her talking about like corporate America and just being like a black woman and, you know, a whole, you know, white world or white company, and she works in publishing. And yeah, the way that she was talking about this book really made me want to read this book. So I need to read this soon because I do want to see how her life is going to turn out. Next is Everything Is Not Enough. And I realized that this is a sequel to a book, and I did not know that. I got this during Christmas time, and you see I've tabbed it, and I got to page 94, and then when I looked it up and realized it was a sequel, I said, oh yeah, no, I need to read I need to read the first book. But I'm kind of bummed because I know a little bit of what happened. So I'm kind of like, should I just continue reading this and then go and read the first book? Because it's like, well, I already know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I'm going to buy the first book, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, no, I like things in order. It just, yeah, again, I didn't finish the book, but I do know a little bit of, like I said, spoilers and stuff. So for me, I already answered the question. I already answered my question. I'm going to read the first book and then go and read this one. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. Lastly, I've been talking about this book so much that I need to actually read this like ASAP. And it is called Blessings. It just came out last month, I believe, in June. I remember I wanted to read this. First of all, when I saw the cover, it was like, what is this about? And then when I read the synopsis, I said, yes, I want to read it. It's a debut novel, and it's about a young man. He's in Nigeria, I believe. And he is like the black sheep of his family, very sensitive. His father sees him kissing a young man, and he's livid, so he sends it to an all-boys boarding school. And in the boarding school, I know it's brutality. It's very harsh. Their methods are like, you know, are trying to transform, trying to convert the men. I know it's probably going to be a little bit of a difficult read because of the methods, and then of course, you know, having you be ostracized by your family because of your, you know, sexual preference. But I cannot wait to get into this. So yeah, guys, that is it when it comes to some of my favorite African literature, some of the new books that I have in my collection. Again, if you guys are in a reading slump, please pick up African literature, because again, that storytelling is just, it's A1, okay? But yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.